Little black girl daddy, that waitress looks like mommy, he turned and. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and bacon grease, the kind of smell that lingered long after the last shift of customers had gone. The neon sign outside buzzed against the drizzle, throwing red and blue light across the windowpane. Inside, a man sat with his daughter, his broad shoulders hunched, his eyes darting now and then toward the door as though expecting someone. His name was Darius Cole, a widower and a man who had known too much loss for his age. Beside him sat his daughter, Amara, a bright-eyed little girl of 7 with her mother's curls and her father's stubborn chin. They were fugitives, though the word was far too heavy to fit on Amara's tongue. She only knew that they had to move often, that her daddy whispered into dark rooms at night, and that she wasn't supposed to tell anyone her real last name. "Daddy," Amara whispered, tugging on his sleeve. "Can I get pancakes?" He forced a smile. "Yeah, baby. Pancakes." A waitress approached their table, pad in hand. Darius barely glanced up, until Amara's small voice cut through the clatter of plates. "Daddy," she said, staring wide-eyed at the woman. "That waitress looks like mommy." Darius froze. The word mommy was a dagger wrapped in velvet. His wife, Elena, had been gone for 3 years, killed in an accident on a research station orbiting Titan. Or at least that was what the government had told him. Slowly, he turned. The waitress, no more than her mid-30s, had hair pulled back in a bun, the same shade of chestnut Elena once had. Her cheekbones, her eyes, even the slight curve of her smile, they were Elena's features, carved again from living flesh. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stop. "Can I take your order?" the waitress asked, voice gentle, polite, but tinged with something else. A flicker of recognition? The beginning. Darius could barely breathe. He stared at her, his mind unraveling, old grief tearing open. Elena had been a geneticist with the Interplanetary Research Agency, stationed far from Earth. She'd written him letters every week, recorded messages for Amara. Then, one day, silence. Weeks later, a cold message, shuttle accident, no survivors. But now, here she was. Or someone who looked just like her. "Pancakes," Darius managed. His voice cracked. "For her." He pointed at Amara. "And coffee. Black." The waitress nodded, retreating with a briskness that seemed rehearsed. Amara tilted her head. "Daddy, why'd you look so funny?" "She looks just like mommy, doesn't she?" "Eat your pancakes when they come," he said quietly. "Don't stare." But Amara was right. The resemblance wasn't passing, it was exact. Darius knew what Elena had worked on before her death. Cloning projects. Memory transference. Genetic preservation. Projects whispered about but never officially acknowledged. Projects dangerous enough to bury. And now, in a roadside diner in the middle of nowhere, he was staring at proof that Elena, or something like her, was alive. The middle. When their food came, Darius studied the waitress more closely. She moved differently than Elena, more cautious, less certain. But when she set the plate in front of Amara, her hand trembled just slightly, the way Elena's always did when she tried to pour wine. "Thank you," Amara said cheerfully. The waitress smiled, but her eyes lingered a second too long. "She looks just like you," she said softly to Darius before retreating. That night, Darius couldn't sleep. They stayed at the small motel across the street, its walls thin, its heater rattling. Amara was curled up on the bed, breathing softly. Darius sat by the window, staring at the diner across the road. The neon buzzed like a pulse. Finally, he couldn't stand it. He slipped on his jacket and left Amara asleep. The diner was nearly empty, just a trucker nursing pie at the counter. The waitress stood by the coffee machine, tidying up. When she saw him, she stiffened. "We're closing soon." "Your name," Darius said, his voice low. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lena." His heart jolted. A fragment of Elena. "Who are you?" he asked, stepping closer. She swallowed hard. I don't know how to answer that." "Then tell me this," he said, his voice rough. "Why do you look exactly like my wife?" Her hands shook. She set the coffee pot down before it shattered. "Because maybe I am her." Lena's story. They sat in the dim booth, voices hushed. Lena explained in fragments, waking up in a laboratory, memories that weren't hers, memories of a daughter she'd never seen, a man she'd never met, yet felt she had loved for years. The scientists had told her she was a prototype, a continuation of Dr. Elena Cole. But she hadn't felt like a scientist. She had felt human. "I ran," she whispered. "I didn't want to be their experiment. I came here, changed my name. I thought maybe it would fade. But then your daughter looked at me, and her voice cracked. She knew." Darius's mind reeled. Was this truly Elena, resurrected in flesh and mind? Or was she a copy, an echo given shape? Yet looking into her eyes, the same hazel flecked with green, he felt the years between them collapse. But danger followed secrets like this. Darius knew the agency wouldn't let such an asset slip away. Escalation. The next morning, Darius planned to leave town. But as he packed the car, two black vehicles pulled into the motel lot. Men in gray suits stepped out, eyes scanning. Agency men. He cursed under his breath, scooped Amara into the car, and gunned the engine. Through the mirror, he saw the suits giving chase. The diner door flew open. Lena ran outside, her apron flapping. She leapt into the road as if to block the vehicles, shouting something Darius couldn't hear. The men hesitated just long enough for Darius to speed away. Hours later, deep in the backroads, he finally pulled over, chest heaving. Amara clutched her teddy bear tight. "Daddy," she said softly. "That was Mommy." "I know it." He closed his eyes. "Maybe, baby. Maybe." But part of him knew they couldn't just leave her behind. The search. That night, he returned for Lena. He found the diner half-trashed, chairs overturned, neon sign shattered. No sign of her. But he knew where they'd take her, the agency's regional containment facility, a black site disguised as a research hospital. He'd seen enough through Elena's files before her accident. He drove there under cover of darkness, heart pounding. Inside, sterile corridors hummed with machines. He snuck past guards, guided by memory and instinct. And then, he saw her. Behind glass, in a containment room, Lena sat on a cot, her face bruised, her eyes tired but burning with defiance. When she saw him, her lips parted. Darius. His name. She remembered his name. The rescue. With stolen keycards and adrenaline, he broke her free. Alarms blared, red lights flashing. They sprinted through the corridors, guards in pursuit. Darius fought like a man possessed, Lena beside him. And when one of the guards cornered them, Lena shouted a string of access codes, codes Elena herself would have known, that shut down the entire wing. Finally, they burst into the night, lungs burning, alarms wailing behind them. Amara was waiting in the car, eyes wide. When Lena slid into the seat, Amara whispered, "Mommy." Lena hesitated, then gathered the child into her arms. "Yes, baby. Mommy's here." The ending. They drove until dawn, the sun bleeding gold over the horizon. The world felt fragile, suspended between fear and hope. Darius knew the agency wouldn't stop. They'd hunt them across states, across worlds if need be. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel hollow. He had his daughter. He had, maybe, impossibly, his wife. Later, as they rested by a quiet lake, Lena sat with Amara on her lap, brushing her curls the way Elena used to. She looked at Darius, eyes shimmering. "I don't know if I'm her," she said softly. "Or just a reflection. But I know I love you. I know I love her. And that's real." He took her hand, rough and trembling. "That's all that matters. The world might chase them. The agency might never relent. But in that moment, by the water's edge, they were a family again, stitched together by love, memory, and the strange miracle of science. And Darius knew he would fight any empire, any government, any shadow, to keep it that way.